Welcome. First we should, oh, I thought they had an American flag here. I have one on my lapel, so I'll be the center of attention for the moment. Okay. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, there. Oh, little one.
Oh, right there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, and thank you for coming to the North Reading Republican Town Committee Candidates Night for the Town of North Reading 2023. I've always felt that, we have the national scene and then we have the local scene in politics. And I feel that politics many times on the local scene is just as important, if not more important, than the national political environment. And the simple reason is because decisions that are made by these fine young men who are running for office impact our real estate taxes, impact the education of our children, impact the environment of the community in its entirety. So these are really very important elections, and for those of you who are watching live stream, I thank you. I wanted to thank Debbie Berkmeyer for Kitties for allowing us to use the room in a very generous way. They're not charging us for anything. It's their community service. Also, I want to thank. We have service at the bar for food or for beverages. Feel free to order. I want to thank Al Pereira with North Reading News, who is always, he's a legend in North Reading for all that he has done for the community and continues to do for the community. Now this is being recorded, as you know, live streamed, but it's also being recorded and will be put on NORCAM within 24 to maybe 48 hours on their public station. Now, I also want to thank the North Reading RTC members who have helped with this process and helped with many programs that we have. And I want to just tell you a little bit about the North Reading Republican Town Committee. We're not just a Republican Town Committee where we look to have the Republican perspective added to the discussions of things within the town. But we do a number of things. As you can see, we did candidates night. This Saturday, the 29th, we're having the annual food drive at the Union Congregational Church, so that during the town-wide yard sale, we'll be able to increase the amount of donations to the pantry. So it's a good program. It's one of the things that we do. We also have a scholarship program that we run, and in fact, there'll be a basket that we're going to pass around if you'd like to be gracious and generous to make a donation to the scholarship. It's a $750 scholarship, so it's a good size, and it goes directly to the school of the recipient of the award for the scholarship. Now, the scholarship is a very simple thing. We don't go into people's finances. We don't get that complicated. It's just one thing. It's an essay. What the American flag means to me. And the purpose of that is to have the young think about that flag because it's all over, it becomes kind of like white noise after a while. And we want them to pause and think about the flag and what it means to them. And that's something that we do. We also celebrate Lincoln's birthday, founder of the Republican Party. Now, that's a little bit about us, but you didn't come to hear about that. I think you want to hear from the candidates. Okay, and so why don't we get right on with it? We're supposed to start with the town moderator, John Murphy, but unfortunately, John has never responded or showed an interest that he was going to be attending. That's too bad, but he would have had a good opportunity to educate people on what the role is of the moderator. But we do have Scott Buckley from the school committee. He can share with you what the school committee does and what their role is in making sure that the children in North Reading have a fine, quality education. So Scott, would you like to?
I get to go first. Let's see. Good for voice. So thank you, everybody. First, thank you, Jeff, for putting this on, North Reading Republican Town Committee for putting this on. Thank you for everybody that came out tonight, for people that are watching this. This is an event I've been going to every time it's happened. I think the last time I ran, I came here. I came the last couple of years just to hear the other candidates. And so I think it's nice to be able to hear people. I remember the first time I moved to town and I didn't know anybody. And so I think voting is a really important aspect of being a citizen of the United States. And so I think you should do the education. You should, learn about the candidates. And so I think it's a great opportunity because there hasn't been really many other opportunities this year. So I really appreciate the opportunity tonight. It's been an honor to serve on the school committee in North Reading for the last 6 years, and I hope to serve for the next 3 as well. Let me start with why I ran initially, why I'm running again. So I have 3 kids in the schools right now. My oldest has some special needs. When I was, a new parent here, I knew I had a child with special needs. I wanted to get involved. I started going to various meetings, and that got me on different committees, that got me to the school committee. And so I'm invested in the schools, I'm invested in this town, and so I want to volunteer my time and give back. When I ran, and today I'm not a one-issue candidate, I didn't run because I wanted to overturn one policy or do one thing. I ran because I believe that if you want something to be good, you have to invest time in that, and you have to volunteer your time to do that. And so I wanted to invest my time in the schools more than anything else, and that's what I've done. I feel like I understand the role of what the school committee is, and I would probably put that role in 4 different categories. First and foremost, where we spend probably most of our time is creating a budget, because the school committee is the link between the town and the school. We're the ones that work on the financial piece. We work with the select board, the town administrator, the town finance director to try to determine the appropriate allocation of funds between the municipal side and the school side. So a lot of what we do is working on budgetary issues. Another important role is hiring and overseeing the superintendent. I think we're very fortunate to have Dr. Daly, and so that's the second role we have each year. The third thing is negotiating union contracts, and the last thing is making sure that we have up-to-date district policies. So when I ran, my primary concern was the budget. And in particular, I was worried about a couple of things because we always have a deficit, and the school committee has to decide where to nip and tuck that deficit. I primarily wanted to make sure that we kept class sizes small, especially at the elementary, and I wanted to make sure that we had a robust extracurricular, offerings in North Reading. I feel like more than anything that we do, having small classes in the elementary is what helps educate children. And I think you have to have a diverse offering of extracurricular activities. When you look at, children, you want them to have options after school, whether it's joining a sports team, joining the Maskers, Notorious, Model UN. There's a lot of great offerings that we have in North Reading. And so I wanted everybody to have somewhere that they can belong and keep funding that. And if you look at what we've done a pretty great job. I mean, how many schools can say they're defending state champion in football and the defending state champion in the drama club? And so it's a pretty amazing offering that we have right now. So depending on what you're interested in, you have something. So I also, the other reason I ran at the time I ran was just I recognized that the school committee was about ready to turn over. A lot of the members had been on for a very long time. They stayed on through the building of the new high school, middle school, and then they were all planning on leaving. And in the last 6 years, everybody that was on the committee when I ran has already left. You know, some would say blame me for that, but I think they were just going to leave anyways. But I think it was important to have somebody step into that role. So if you look at how the school committee has done the last few years, I think we've done pretty well. And if you judge us by the 4 criteria I just talked about, number 1, the budget. We presented a balanced budget to town meeting every year. That is not easy. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Mr. McGowan and myself and Mr. Studo were at a meeting this morning at 8 a.m. going over the finances again. Mr. McGowan and I have a meeting tomorrow during the day for a budget workshop. We have a meeting tomorrow night. So there's a lot of time that goes into it, but we've been able to do it. We hired Dr. Daly, who's been an incredibly successful superintendent. You know, my first year as chair is when Mr. Bernard retired. We did a full search, you know, open to everybody. We didn't just look within town to try to, and that was a long process to try to find a new superintendent. We've successfully negotiated every union contract before it expired. That sounds like a simple thing, but if you look around, you see a lot of towns right now that have unions going on strike. You see teacher, you know, work stoppages. We haven't had that. I've personally been involved in, you know, 3 of the different union contracts. Mr. McGowan and I were the ones that negotiated the NREA, which is a teacher's contract last time. I was on the custodian's contract and also the food service workers contracts, I think each of the last 2 years. And I think throughout my time, I've never tried to do the minimum. I've never tried to just show up and, you know, put a vote in. My second year, I became the vice chairman. My third year, I became the chair, and I've been the chair ever since. I feel like, you know, the budget is still the biggest issue. We're going to have cuts. Unfortunately, the deficit this year is worse than before. And we are not going to reach level services, which means that there will be cuts. So we won't actually be able to fund all the positions that we have this year, next year. And, you know, going forward, I want to be part of the, you know, the decision-making team on where those cuts are made. That's really what we're doing tomorrow, is trying to figure out where we have to make cuts. I've always respected the role of the school committee, including the limitations of the role. I try to not extend beyond the role. I do not try to make educational issues into political issues. I try to discuss issues with the members on the committee and really thoroughly discuss it. You can just put something out there and say, okay, you need 3 votes to pass it, let's move forward with that. But a lot of times we have disagreements, even if they're minor disagreements. And my motto has always been, it's better to hear everybody and try to find a compromise position that everybody feels comfortable with, rather than just, you know, pushing it through with a 3-2 vote. And there's been, just a couple of meetings ago, we had this, talking about some of the fees. I had one thought, some other people had different thoughts. We came to a conclusion that all 5 of us could support. You know, and I always recognize that the school committee are not the educators in this town. We have a wonderful superintendent, we have wonderful teachers, wonderful administrators. Okay. And our job really is to fund the schools and to support them. So in closing, the issues that we're facing are not going away. I want to continue to be a part of that team to help find the solutions. My children are still here, 1 in elementary, 2 in middle school, and I care to volunteer my time, and I hope to see many of you next Tuesday. I hope you come out to vote, and I appreciate you all for listening. So thank you.
Sure.
Does anybody have a question or two for Mr. Buckley? You must have spoken very well.
Thank you.
So next will be the Community Planning Commission candidates. We have Jeff Griffin and Chris Hayden. Chris Hayden will be speaking first. So welcome him. Thank you.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for coming out tonight. Thank you, Mr. Yull, the NRTC, and others for organizing the event. My name is Chris Hayden, and I'm running for re-election to the North Reading Community Planning Commission, a position I have held for over 20 years. And over my years of service, I have found that my knowledge and experience have become increasingly important in this role. The CPC is an important board within our town government. I have found this position to be extremely rewarding to me personally, especially when driving through town and seeing the many projects with which I have been involved. I'd like to share a few examples with you. Our newest subdivision is Grand Legacy, located at 77 Elm Street. Actually, I don't think it has a street name, but there's no street sign there yet. Memphis Farm on Havel Street, Little Meadow Way on Marblehead Street, Deerfield Place on Marblehead Street, Charles Street Extension at the end of Charles Street, McIntyre Woods within McIntyre Crossing, and I'm also involved with special permits. A special permit is when a business wants to make a change of a certain size. They have to come to the planning board for a special permit to do change to their property. Heavenly Donuts was one of those. CVS and the East Gate Plaza facelift. Dunkin' Donuts redesign at 13 Main Street. The Dunkin' Donuts at 293 Main Street and Plough Ave. The office building behind that Dunkin' Donuts at 3 Plough Ave. The dental building to the right of Dunkin' Donuts at 291 Main Street. North Reading Storage Solutions at 35 Main Street. And 25 Main Street, current home of UPS, Carl Michael Salon, and others. As a member of the Community Planning Commission, I attend all or most town meetings and select board meetings when that needed. Our regular meetings are open to the public, and I appreciate all feedback we receive from residents that attend. But it is important to keep in mind that the CPC works within state regulations as well as the local rules as they are voted on by town meeting. That is an essential element of this role, one I hope I can continue with your support on May 2nd. Thank you.
Mr. Hayden, appreciate that. Does anybody have a question or two for Mr. Hayden? Another good speaker. Next, we will have Jeff Griffin, who's the candidate for Community Planning Commission. Feel free to ask questions afterwards, but I'm introducing Mr. Jeff Griffin.
Thank you, everybody. I just want to say thank you to Kitties. And I know the chicken wings are here, really good. Thank you, Kitties, for this event tonight. Also, Jeff, thank you for the work that you do with the North Reading Republican Town Committee. I also wanted to say thank you to my wife, Sandy, and my family. They're here tonight, my daughter, Sophia. So this is an interesting thing. I thought this was a great opportunity to actually be able to put the face to the sign that's in someone's lawn. Because I know, people have been asking me, are you Jeff Griffin? Are you Jeff Griffin? I says, yes, I am the guy. So when I was invited to this event, I was very excited to be here. So there are a couple things that you should know about me. First thing is I've only been in town for 18 years, and that's a long time for me, but in talking to the people in this town, that's not really that long. Some of them are 50 years, 40 years. It was amazing, some of the people that I talked to. So that was pretty interesting. I got to learn a lot about that. My son Joshua lives here. He has a house not too far from me. My son Jeremy also lives in the town. He lives right off of Park Street. We live on Abbott Road. And the interesting thing is that, so we have 3 families that pay taxes here. We also have a business here on Main Street, which is really in the heart of the town, you know? So I'm up and down on Main Street every single day. I own a plumbing company. I don't know if you guys have ever seen our trucks around, but it's J. Griffin Heating and Plumbing, so a little plug, okay? But anyways, so we're well entrenched in what goes on here in the town. And you know, it's a great place to raise a family. I've learned that, and I care about it. So I decided by the voices of the people that I visit on a daily basis. So, you know, I'm in kitchens and in people's homes all the time. And over the last few years, people have really in this town expressed, I don't know how to say it, but they're frustrated. They're very concerned about the future of the town. And they're really worried about the direction of the town. So I kept hearing it over and over and over again, and I'd always voice it at night. I'd say, Sandy, you know, over dinner, I'd say, you know, we had this issue, and like this poor lady, and she's telling me all these things, and she's so worried about the town. She's been here forever paying taxes, and there shouldn't be, you know. So it really struck us as a family, and says, you know what, we're not going to sit back, and we're not just going to watch this train go by. We're going to jump on it, and we're going to be a part of it. So we decided to get into the race. Now, I know that, so my background, I'd like to talk about that too, because that kind of leads into a lot of this. Whether you guys feel as a community I'm qualified enough to do this, but I certainly feel that I am. So first of all, I'm gonna go way back. So I worked for National Grid for 27 years. I was involved in a lot of big pipeline projects. I was dealing with transmission lines, all sorts of communication problems within the company. We took certain facets of the company, and one of my key roles was to make sure that the people involved in the projects were communicating effectively, and they were all following like standard operating procedures. So we took, you know, I took that and I was able to melt that together. We were very successful with that with National Grid. There was also pipeline projects with transmission lines and things like that that we were involved with, and well, I was involved with. We're very successful. And then the part of it that I really learned with National Grid was, you know, communication skills are very important. You need to be able to do that, and then your projects need to, you know, you're timely, to be timely with your projects, and to be able to make sure that all the facets of the project were completed properly and effectively. So, you know, anything down to the smallest things like stock or materials or whatever, or an individual wasn't, you know, didn't know the SOP or the procedures, those little things always came into play in my role at National Grid. But what I found is when I kind of retired a few years back and I started J. Griffin Heating and Plumbing, I found that a lot of that skill set I could move into that company. And so now it became more of a personal thing, dealing with, instead of big giant projects, now I'm dealing with people in small projects. I also found that that's probably as difficult or more difficult dealing with people in small projects. So we got really good at scheduling, we got really good at communicating, we got really good with our effectiveness and things that we did with the company. So these are all things that I've learned over the years in time that I feel can be effective in the CPC and what the CPC and the direction and things like that. So I just really, in a nutshell, and to wrap this up, I really think that I'm here because it's what the people want. The people have expressed it over and over and over again. Our family didn't want to sit back and do nothing. So that's really it in a nutshell. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be glad to take them. Great. Hey, thank you.
Boy, do we have eloquent speakers tonight, don't we? Okay, so now we are up to the select board. Select board is the highest office in the town. It incorporates an awful lot of responsibility, vision, understanding, and sensitivity to the community and to all of us who live here. So our first candidate is going to be Jack Carroll. Carol's a young man who's stepping forward. I respect that. And I think that his willingness and eagerness to, as a young man, to get involved is a good sign for our community. We're probably going to need more people like him. So anyway, here is Jack Carroll.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the North Reading Town Committee, North Reading Republican Town Committee, for holding this event. Gives people a great opportunity to get to know the candidates. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jack Carroll. I'm only 19 years old. I've lived in town for all but 2 years of my life, and I've had questions about my experience, and I'd like to answer them here. I believe my experience really comes from the fact that I've lived in town for, like I said, all but 2 years of my life, and I believe that makes me closer to the issues at hand, and I believe it makes me closer to the people who are impacted by these issues. And the issue that really got me into this race was the new sewer project and the prior betterment efforts that it included. And as an abutter myself, I didn't think it was right to have, an unopposed election where something, like this could be going on. And I believe that this, sewage project, if it is to be carried out, should be, if the claim is that it's better for the whole town to bring in businesses. I believe that if that project is to be brought in, it should be distributed among the whole town, not just on abutters. And I was one of the votes against the betterment at the March 6th meeting. I believe that if it was to pass, it would be a financial burden on the town. It would be a financial burden felt town-wide, I believe, and eventually it would cause even more financial problems down the line. I believe that the money used for that project could be used for better things. I believe, funding towards elderly services, towards our schools, towards, building a new building for our fire department. I believe those are some major issues of mine. Overall, I'll keep it brief for you. My goal is to be a voice of the people. I am your mouthpiece. I will bring your issues to the board to the best of my ability. And if you have any questions, I know that was kind of short, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Get some eloquent speaker as well.
Had I known that we would have such eloquence, I would have practiced myself. So lastly, we have Vincenzo Stuto, who's incumbent, one-term representative. He's done a lot of hard work for the community. He may tell you this, but he has 4 children and a wife, and how he finds time for this is a miracle in my mind. But I want to welcome him. It's Vincenzo Stuto.
I feel like I'm NORCAM every day. I was on till last night at midnight, so I will try to keep it brief because I can be long-winded. So let's talk about what it means to be on the select board. I joined the select board, and actually, there's the plug. Let me first say that. I do have 4 children from 9 years to 9 months. So I am a taxpayer, a business owner. I have kids in the school. I grew up in Malden. I've been here since late 2017. My parents are still there. From a standpoint of, just what I can bring unique is to bridge the demographic. Because that's what I saw as a primary problem, that one hand didn't know what the other hand was doing. So I run with a crowd, with everybody kids, I'm on the soccer fields or baseball field for 12 hours a day on Saturday, and it is amazing how many of those do not know the concerns of everybody else I've met through the select board. So, such as, everyone elder services, all the other select board members I have, that represent a lot of other constituents. But here's the bottom line of the select board. Outside of when during COVID was happening, when I started, 95% of issues are budgetary. Plain and simple. I run an investment management firm. I put together thousands of budget, financial planning. I leave no stone unturned for clients. Our firm is very large. We manage it every day. Every day I solve a problem for a client. Some of these are very complex. for companies, for business. Meaning, including with the outfit, I go from work to the select board and I'm doing the same thing. It's just a matter of what numbers I'm putting together or trying to find. I will say this. What I am really big on, okay, and let me preempt the question if it's gonna come. I'm big on ideas and I'm big on process. I'm big on ideas that could theoretically bring revenue to the town to support level services where we don't have to go more than the cost of living, which is set at 2.5 by law, even though everyone here knows that the price of meat at Stop and Shop is up 24% in the last 3 years, okay? And sewer, for better or for worse, is an idea. It's a concept that was brought. Actually, it's exactly how it should work. It was an initial concept, an idea for revenue, brought to people. It looks dramatically different than anybody that's followed it than it did in September. So you know what's great about that? The process worked. And what a select board member should do is bring all ideas to the town and the town decides, not the select board, okay? So I feel that from a qualification standpoint, I'm not saying you have to run a financial advisory firm and do financial planning to be qualified, but if the primary focus is budget, well, I can't think of any better qualification you could have in the private sector. And why I chose to run, I wasn't gonna include it, some people do. Initially, the big thing that's also still a big thing, it's kind of been on the back burner, it was when Mr. Yull announced the 20 Elm project. I got very involved with the group that helped oppose it and actually pretty much saved the town from this thing already being built, okay? Where actually the private group did. Since then, I've been liaison with the town administrator and town council, okay? That was a primary focus, but talk about doing the people's work. Because that was also a very impressive meeting, just as like the abutters one was. That was pretty good. That was a lot of meeting. But, so, the best way I can say is that the select board or any good select board member is someone who can look at many ideas, see what they can do, explore it, bring it to the town. If the town likes it, you roll with it. If it doesn't, you go looking for more, okay? And I feel that that is exactly what happened, not just with sewer, but many things. And I'll leave with this. As Mr. Yull alluded to, and I thank him, sorry I didn't start with that. Again, I slept 4 hours and I've had 5 coffees today. But it's something where there's at least 15 different things that had nothing to do with sewer or trash. That's another big thing that comes up. Or trash in the last 3 days alone, including over the weekend. So it's something where I feel that I'm not the most qualified person to ever do this. However, I think that my primary skill set being budgeting and the primary focus of the select board being budgets, with the exception of a few other issues here and there, that, I don't think you can paint a better background for it. So I want to take some questions if you have them. Mrs. Yull.
So the long question here. I think a lot of the town thinks that on the board of select, you just have, on the select board, sorry, you have 2 meetings a month and you talk and that's what you do, right? But can you tell us like which committees that you are the liaison for and why your background is important for them?
So I'll start way back when. For the first 2 years, I was liaison to the CPC, okay? And I can tell you, talk about a job where you put in a lot of hours and everything just, every good idea dies. I'm sorry. So, and I'm trying to do my part to try to do it. But I was liaison to the CPC, so, and again, so when that happened, I went to their nightly meetings every couple of weeks and mine. At the same time, at that point, I was on wastewater, but because COVID hit, and that agreement had been signed with Andover, there wasn't much going on with that. It was all about COVID all day, every day. But I'd say now I'm vice chair of the select board. I sit on the financial planning team and also the capital improvement team. So let's see, I had a meeting on Monday at 8. I had then a board meeting from 6:30 to midnight. Then I had a meeting this morning at 8 a.m. Then I had to talk to Mike Liberto in the afternoon. Then I had to respond to the finance director. Then I had to talk to somebody else about bonding. So I'd say that even now, after almost 3 years, and having the best possible understanding when it comes to finance outside of literally the finance director in North Reading, depending on background, I'd say last month was a slow one at 75 hours. And by the way, if you're not putting in at least 60, you're not doing it right. And I don't care how many conversations you have with people, because that's the thing. It's that sometimes you may want to do as much as you can, but you run out of time. So that's an average month is about 60 to 80. And that's, and I feel like if you're gonna do this, you go all the way. There's no point to do it just because, you go all the way.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for everyone for coming today. It's nice to hear voices from familiar faces. I actually have a question for Mr. Carroll, if that's okay. I don't know. I didn't really get a chance to ask it before. And, first, Mr. Studo. So first, I just wanted to say it's really admirable of you to put your hat in the ring and run, because at 19, I don't know that I could have ever had the bravery to do it. So hats off to you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That being said, because this is there's a lot of people invested in the town, and the select board is a really important position. My question to you is, you had mentioned a lot about sewer, which is great, but like Mr. Studo said, that's just one small aspect of a lot of responsibilities and things that you'll have your hands in. Aside from sewer, what are your priorities, and what do you think you personally would bring in terms of experience and background to help further those priorities?
Well, like I said previously, my experience, I feel as though comes from how long I've lived in town. I feel like I'm connected more to the issues, connected more to those who've been impacted by those issues. For example, I know I've been a little redundant about the sewer thing, but I live right on Main Street, Park Colony, excuse me. So I'm right on where the affected area would be. And as for my other issues, I believe, like I said, funding elderly services is a huge thing for me. I believe we should give back, building a new building for our fire department. I've talked with them about it, and that seems to be a concern over there. And I believe giving more to our schools as well would be a great move.
Are you presently in college, and what is your major?
I've withdrawn from college over the past couple of months due to just taking things in a new direction and focusing on this race.
Any more questions?
Never.
Okay.
Sorry.
Does anybody have a question for Mr. Studo? Okay.
No? I'm just,
He's eager.
I've been sitting down.
Sit down, take a little bit. Well, let me ask both candidates for the select board a question. You can answer first, Vincenzo. What do you like most about being on the select board?
Okay. Solving complex financial issues, because that's what I do. In my world, if you can solve complex financial issues, you have the best investment advisory practices. And that's how people come to you. And when they know that that's what you're into, that it's not just a simple equation. So that's what I like best, because that's what this is. The select board is just taking an insane amount of data and trying to make it work. And like Mr. Carroll alluded to, some of these things that we need to fund, Well, when you add them all up, they ain't that far off on what sewer's gonna cost. So just want to say that out there that, that some of these things, one way or the other, will require money to come from somewhere. And that is a complex financial problem that needs to be addressed. And that's what I like about it, because there's nothing simple about municipal finance. And I used to think there was, and then I ran for select board, and then I got in, and then I realized that there's a lot more that you don't see, from the naked eye, so.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to ask you, because you mentioned that you are taking a new direction in your life.
Yes.
Okay. And it's a very admirable thing, because it's very tough when you're going to make a decision. Everybody goes to college, right? You don't have to, and everybody has to go to college. So when a young man makes a decision to take themselves in a certain direction, it's not without thought. So what I'd like to know from you, how did you come to that point of that epiphany, if I may say? Yeah, of changing your direction in your life. Okay?
When I went to college, it just didn't feel like the right fit for me. I didn't, feel like it was the right direction for me. And I believe, coming home, trying to do this, trying to do something like this, give back more to the community, was more fitting and more becoming of me, and just college, just plain and simple, was just not the right direction for me personally.
Thank you. So I'm not going to leave the CPC out of this either. I want you to know. So I mean, they are. I know they say that the select board is the top echelon of town government. Okay, the CPC is right there with the school committee. They just do different things. All right. So I'm going to ask Mr. Hayden, what do you like most about being on the CPC?
That's not an easy question. I like a lot of things about the CPC. It's interacting with the developers, the engineers, the designers, but also the people in North Reading. When we have a public hearing and we ask for input from the town residents, it's very important to get that information because it does help us. Because the developers and the engineers, they don't always tell you the whole story about what's happening there, what's happened over the years. You're getting a snapshot from them. So, we may know intimately about what's going on in this area, but we learn more from when the people talk to us. And that really is the good thing, is to get people to talk to us about what's happening. And so we can help design some of these subdivisions, because there's, we have to follow rules and regulations to make these decisions. And our hands are tied in some situations, but not how they're completed.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, and of course, Jeff, my question to you is, this is a switch from National Grid to your own small business, and now into town government. How do you feel that your expertise from working with National Grid and working with your own business intertwine with what you feel you can do being a member of the CPC? How does that all come together in your mind?
So it's interesting, when you said, how does it all come together in my mind? And I think really, when he asked that, I just thought about vision. I didn't really, and I get, where'd he go? Sorry, Jeff. And I get the whole, the technical parts of all of this stuff, and I understand a lot of that stuff, and I've been around all that stuff, since I was a little kid, with my grandfather tearing apart a vacuum cleaner and trying to figure out how to put it back together. Things like that. So mechanically, the mind is there, but I think the vision portion of what we're talking about is probably more important than maybe the nuts and bolts of it sometimes, you know? And the whole idea is, and I mean, I don't know if I have a small story to tell. I don't know.
Go.
Okay, so anyways, it's an interesting story because when I was a kid, and I grew up in Revere, and I remember going to, and I've told this story so many times, Sandy's gonna be like, oh, not again. But anyways, it's true, it really is true, right, see? But it is true, and the thing is, when I was a kid, I do remember this like so perfectly clear. I went to a Dairy Queen with my grandfather, and we walked to Dairy Queen. And we had to go up Central Ave, and we took a right on Broadway, and we walked down Broadway. I got my ice cream cone, it cost 10 cents. All he did was complain the whole way home that it cost 10 cents back then. But what I remember most about a city like Revere, you know, 70,000 people, I don't even know how many people are over there now, but when I was a kid, what I remembered most was it was tree lined. It was beautiful. It was just so beautiful to look at. So that's like a vision, that's what I see. I was like, I look at Main Street and it breaks my heart. There are a lot of good people, a lot of good businesses, but I think Main Street just does not look great. And it can look better, and just something as simple as a tree-lined street is something I always thought we should have. You know, that's the basic principles of real estate, is a tree-lined street. So anyways, that's kind of, I'm sorry if I went off track a little bit, but that's kind of how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you to all the candidates for their time, for their, just to remind everybody, they're volunteers, they don't get paid. I mean, it's a labor of love. And I guess I should say, for those who don't know, I am a former two-term selectman, so I understand the labor that is involved and the hours that is required. And I've been the liaison also for the CPC. So it's a big chunk of your life. And, but you have to love it. You have to love it. You have to realize you're doing something good for the community. And I believe everyone here, the incumbents and the candidates, I honestly believe that they are here to make North Reading better. Okay, so as far as you can criticize some of their decisions, you can criticize whether they made the right decision or the wrong decision, but you can never criticize their intent. Okay, so don't ever forget that. So when they are elected, whoever's elected here, remember that when you go before them and you're upset with their decision, remember, respect's the greatest word. Just in closing, first of all, Chairwoman of the Select Board, Mrs. Campanelli is here. Manny Pelli. Hey, I got the right nationality, right? So anyway, I apologize for that. But also, so just remember, if you would, please make a contribution to the for our scholarship drive. You know, $1, $2, $20, $1,000. You know, we don't restrict. Okay. So please do that if you can, and don't forget. We have the food drive coming on this Saturday during we're going to be at 150 Haverhill Street, which is where the food pantry is located, right next to the Union Congregational Church, which is 148. Okay, so bring your goods if you have some, and that people in the town will really appreciate that. So we're very excited for that. So again, I want to thank Kitty's for their generosity in allowing us to use this room. They have done it for the past few years for us. I think Debbie Berkmeyer, who is a native of North Reading, has always reached out to the community. So I thank her. And I don't know if she's here, but let's give her a ovation. And with that in mind, I can say that meeting adjourned.
And don't forget to go and vote.
Yes, okay, yes, my mistake. Don't forget to go and vote on May 2nd, anywhere from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And do it. I mean,
At St. Teresa?
at St. Teresa's, thank you, thank you. I'm hoping everybody knows some of that stuff.
You people in town.
That's true, that's true, that's true, that's true. And so anyway.
7 to 8 a.m., 7 a.m. to 8
8 p.m., right, right. So,
Rain or shine.
thank you very much, Mrs. Mendelelli. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Thank you.